everyone, and welcome to this edition of the MEMSPA Minutes. My name is Mike Domagalski, and I have the privilege of being the president of the Michigan Elementary and Middle School Principals Association for the 2021-22 school year. You can subscribe to the MEMSPA TV YouTube channel. Please check out these MEMSPA Minutes as they come available every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. on the hashtag MEMSPA chat, but you can check out the channel and turn on your notifications if you'd like. On my screen, I currently have two amazing leaders in the state of Michigan. I have with me Ms. Detra Fields, and I also have Mr. Michael Johnson. I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into the conversation today about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So Detra, would you like to introduce yourself really quickly?
Yes, hi, my name is Michael Johnson.
And we talked about that right prior to this. So well played, Ms. Fields. Well played.
Hi, I'm Detra Fields, coming from Carman Ainsworth Schools in the Flint, Michigan area. I am the current director of teaching and learning. However, I was principal of Dye Elementary School for 15 years. And before that, assistant principal at Randall's Elementary for 2 years. So I've been in education for quite a little while. I'm happy to continue this role in teaching and learning because that is absolutely what I love to talk about and love to do. And I love to bring that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective to that role.
Awesome. Almost 20 years of leadership experience and continuing. So thank you so much for that. Michael.
All right. My name is Detra Fields. I'm sorry. No, actually, I'm Michael Johnson. And a little bit about myself is I love people. I love to learn from people. I love to care about people. And I love to see when people are able to grow into their better selves. I am the proud principal of Carpenter Elementary School, which is seated in the Ann Arbor Public School District. This is my 8th year here and my 17th year overall in education. Prior to becoming a principal, I was a teacher where I learned so much more about myself than I ever have in any other capacity. My true passion is children, and to that I have 3 of them that are my own: a 24-year-old, a 16-year-old, and an 8-year-old who happens to go to school with me now, and she keeps me grounded. And I am looking forward to growing people into their better selves so that we can have a powerful impact as we move forward with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thanks,
Awesome.
Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you guys both. And so to start the conversation a little bit here in the next 10 minutes or so, can you talk to people about what MEMSPA, the Michigan Elementary and Middle School Principals Association, maybe means to you? How did you get more involved? How did you get more involved with DEI? Anything about that for a minute, a couple minutes here. Michael, I'll let you go first. Just talk about your interactions with MEMSPA. What draws you to MEMSPA, especially as it pertains to minority representation, DEI? Go ahead, Michael.
So thank you for that question. I got an email 11 years ago, and it said, join this, and it's a group of principals, and I said, why not? So I did, and I was fortunate enough to go to my very first conference where we were in the Grand Traverse, and I came down the stairs. I was ready, and I looked around, and I didn't have a clue as to what was going on. And Mr. Derek Wheaton saw the little deer look in my face, and he said, hey, can I help you? And I said, yes, I'm looking for registration. He said, come on with me. And he took me along with him, Mike, and he actually said, who are you having breakfast with? I said, I don't know anyone here. And he said, well, you're having breakfast with me. So that was my very first introduction to MEMSPA, and it gave me an opportunity to grow into the person that I am today, because it showed me how people are there for you. People will give you an opportunity to get to know who you are. It's not who you think you are, but who you actually are. And in the leadership position that I am now, I am the co-representative with Detra, and it's been something that has been much needed, Mike, in our organization. When you think about diversity, when you think about equity, and when you think about inclusion, you have to ask yourself, what are you doing to promote this? Is it a way of life for people, or is it just the next hot buzzword? And Detra checks me more than anybody I know. Are you being your true self? And the only way that you can be your true self, Mike, is if you allow yourself to be uncomfortable. So what
Very
led
true.
me to this position is being able to say, I'm comfortable doing this and I'm uncomfortable doing that. How can I grow into my next self? Teacher, would you support that?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And teacher,
Absolutely.
what's your pathway or avenue with MEMSPA? How'd you get involved and, things like that?
Actually, my former principal was involved with MEMSPA, and he was a principal of the year. And he spoke very highly of the organization. Another principal that I worked with was also very active in MEMSPA, and I started going to conferences with her. Through going to conferences and meeting other people, it felt like family. We're transitioning.
Yep, there you go. The bells, right?
It felt like family. I met a group of people that I could rely on. We could bounce ideas off each other. It got to the point where we were emailing, visiting, and it just felt nice coming to those meetings to get new information and to see family friends. And then through that, I met Mickey Berg. I don't remember how we met, but we were attracted to each other like glue. And wherever she went, she was like, come on, come with me. So this particular time, my crew, my people that I knew weren't there. So Mickey and I were running thick as thieves, and we've formed a huge friendship relationship. And I love her to death. And she's now retired, and I'm continuing on in MEMSPA. But for me, it's been the people, the relationship, learning new knowledge, growing in my practice, and being able to take that information and grow staff, grow a building, impact students. My staff, as a matter of fact, every time I come back, they're, what are we doing new next? What's next? They already know we've got something that we're going to do, something that we're going to tackle. So that's been a fun thing for them. And I also always bring back goodies. So that's probably why they're excited. But the goodies come with new knowledge and new information. And in terms of DEI and understanding, Michael referenced knowing who you are and recognizing that within this amazing organization, there has to be representation of a diverse group of principals. We have a diverse group of principals across the state, and we need to continue to pursue that representation. But in growing people, we have to invite people. So we want to make sure that we're creating that inviting culture for everyone to come and feel welcome at a conference. For Michael, it was Derek that said, hey, you're with me. Mickey said, hey, you're with me. So how do we reach back and continue to pull people into this organization? I think that's very important. It's a very powerful move, and it doesn't cost anything other than a hello.
Yeah, and a couple things I heard there, which was great. But Michael, you mentioned Derek Wheaton, and Detra, you mentioned Mickey Berg, two amazing leaders that are both retired and doing great things beyond retirement. But that's the thing about MEMS, but I think all of us can attach to is we have someone that we know that kind of took us under their wing and allowed us to become comfortable. And then now what we do is we collaborate with amongst each other, and we have this network of people that we rely on right outside of our district. So what a great opportunity we have to network with people and have that as a platform. Going back into the diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation, you guys have been very integral and part of that and co-chairing that part of our strategic plan. We want to make sure that that is part of our focus at MEMSPA moving forward. And I think Michael's mentioned it many times. I think every time you present, you mention this, both of you really, is we have to make the uncomfortable comfortable. Like sometimes we just don't know, and then we don't ask or we don't do because we're uncomfortable about it. I'm going to ask an uncomfortable question because some people, as I come through and to talk to people, they think it involves just race and that's all when we talk about DEI, and that's not necessarily it, right? There's that uncomfortable part of the conversation. So when you say diverse, I'm on a committee, the advocacy committee, and we wanted it diverse, speaking about race, sex, where we're at in the state. So we wanted representation from South, West, North, Central, East. That's when we're talking about diverse. So it's not just this one pigeonholed thing that continually, maybe not continually, but people think of. So talk about diversity, equity, inclusion as it pertains to MEMSPA's work within the strategic plan. What can people expect? What should our focuses be for the 2021 and 22 school year? Because that's a huge part of our strategic plan, one of those 4 pillars. And I would love for you guys to just kind of piggyback off each other, talk about how DEI is going to look in MEMSPA in the next year or so.
Mike, one thing that you said that's very important is that how is it a part? And from my perspective, it has to be who we are. It can't be a part. Diversity, equity, and inclusion should be the plan because it's the only thing that is inclusive enough to include all people. If you think about it, if diversity and equity, when you think about it, Mike, is the space that's between us. Right now, it's a Zoom call, but we are vibing, we are connecting on a conversation. We are comfortable in this space. And you even said, let's push a little bit. It's the space that's in between us that brings us closer together. How
and the interruption, staff and students for positive behavior reward slip drawing. Today, for 6th grade,
we got some positive rewards going out at Carmen Ainsworth, right? Which is always a good thing. There's nothing wrong with positive behavior supports. Fantastic. So, hey, Detra, can you mute your mic real quick?
Please come down to the office to get
Detra,
your
can you mute
reward.
your mic?
7th grade, I have
Yes.
locally.
So,
go ahead,
so
Michael.
it's the space that we are in that includes everyone. Diversity is race. It is sexual orientation. It is where a person is from. It is, but it's also disabilities. It's also what makes us unique. It's all inclusive. And we've talked about what equity means. We want to level the playing field for everyone. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable here. But the only way to actually achieve that is if I feel included, if I feel valued, if there's a seat at the table for me, and if it isn't, why isn't there? If there's not a seat, who's going to be my friend? Who's going to be my Mickey Berg? Who's going to be my Derek Whedon? Who's going to be my Debbie McFalone to say, hey, scoot in a little bit. Let me pull you closer. Let me sit. Oh, as a matter of fact, let me move out of the way and you sit there. There cannot be another annual conference. There can't be another meeting. There can't be another anything that is not all inclusive of all perspectives.
Yeah, and
when that perspective is not there, Mike, we allow other people to make that narrative. That's not acceptable for this organization as we move forward.
100%. And it really goes back to what you guys talked about in the beginning is being invited by those 2 great leaders, Mickey Berg, Derek Wheaton. Like, they invited you in. That's part of it, right? That's the inclusion part. We want to include people. If there's not a chair, let's get one. If there's not a spot, let's get one. Let's make one. Let's make sure everyone's included and they feel included, not just say, hey, this is what we're going to set up and do, but it's that personal connections as well. Michael, you and I have a connection every annual conference. What are you going to get from me? Go ahead. What are you going to get from me?
I'm going to get a piece of wood.
You are. And why is that?
Because we have a connection. We found a commonality between us, and it's that valuable to us that we know who we are through that moment.
Correct. And for those that don't know, Michael's family has a wood splitting and selling business. And I have a farm and we have a splitter, and it's just something that Michael and I connected on. So at the annual conference, either he or I or one of us or both of us, we kind of exchanged like a piece of oak or maple or whatever it might be. And like last annual conference, I came with a big old piece of oak for Michael.
That's right.
But that's important because you're smiling and it's our connection.
It's going to be my first fire. It's always my first fire of the year.
It's for sure. Mine too. Actually, we started in Christmas. So, but anyway, it's just how you connect.
So I'm going to say both of you bring me a piece of wood that I can put in my fire pit.
All right.
You got it. And that's what it's all about. So, but no, I appreciate the comments. I mean, Michael, the DEI is not just a part. I mean, it should be everything that we're doing. We should be all encompassing. We should be thinking about that and planning and okay to accept all of that at all times. So I think you gave some.
It can't be a checklist, Mike.
No,
it can't be a checklist. Michael, one of the things you said earlier is talking about those uncomfortable conversations. And I think once we begin having those conversations, the more comfortable they are. It's uncomfortable knowing that it's out there, the tension is in the room. But once you have the conversation, you can talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion in a more natural way. Equity doesn't mean taking from. Equity means giving to, making it more equal for everyone. When we're talking about inclusion, we're talking about including everyone's perspective, changing a mindset to continually thinking about being inclusive and not divisive. In terms of MEMSPA, with the work that we do, we try to make everyone comfortable with where they are in their discovery, because we're all at different levels. But the important piece is to continuously have those conversations, to continuously have to think about a different perspective, to continuously grow in our understanding, and truly our understanding and love for each other. If we weren't receptive to Mickey Berg, Derek, then that relationship wouldn't be there. But it's being receptive to having that conversation and growing with each other. But it isn't just a presentation. It should be what we do in every phase of MEMSPA, every walk of MEMSPA, our PD, our planning, our speakers, our presentations should all include something that makes it inclusive for all of us.
Correct. I think that's very well said as it pertains to not only just DEI, but the work MEMSPA is doing. We want to put it at the forefront, like Michael said, and you said as well, Detra. It's not just a checklist. It's not just part. It's not just one thing we're doing. It should be all encompassing everything we're doing and every action and everything that we plan. It needs to be top of the focus. And we need to consider that, and not consider that. We need to ensure that that is part of that focus. So I appreciate your words.
So let me say this, because I say this in everything that we do. We talk about the work that we do within MEMSPA, and it's growing all of us individually as principals. But our next task is then to grow our teachers, who grow our students, who grow our world. So the work that we do is really minimal compared to what is needed across the country within our whole world. We're wanting our society to embrace DEI and have a relationship and understand each other. But it can begin with our organization.
And not as a deficit, but as an actual enhancement of oneself. You know, when Detra is talking about the community, it's global. We have the opportunity to grow this next generation to be the world that we want all of our kids to experience. Mm-hmm. It's not just a fad. It's not a billboard. It's not a T-shirt. It's not a gesture. It is a way of life.
Yep. Way of life.
How are you accepting of someone who is different than you? How are you tolerant? No, you should never be tolerant. What you should be is aware and knowledgeable, and be able to transfer yourself to their side. I don't want to say empathy. I don't want to have empathy for a person, or even how do you exist and live with people that are not like you? How do you grow? What's your impact?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a word that comes to mind for me as we're having this conversation is accepting of all. I mean, I think that might be a good way of saying it, is no matter what it is, whether it's a belief, a value, a difference, a color, or whatever it might be, you're accepting of it, and you're understanding that their perception or their perspective is different. And that's great. Yes. That's good stuff. So, yes. So yeah, I appreciate that. Is there, and you guys are doing great work. So I appreciate that. And I think really from my, this 15 minutes we've been on now, 20 minutes that this will run, it's not a checklist. Right. So when we talk about a strategic plan, or when we talk about diversity and equity inclusion, sometimes we say, okay, well, what are the things that you're going to do? Great. We did it in January. Check. Great. We did it in March. Check. With DEI, it's not like that. Right. I mean, there are things with advocacy that we want to check off. We want to have a good lobby day. We want to make sure X amount of people are there. Check. We want to strengthen MEMSPA's leadership opportunities or professional learning. Okay, great. We're going to provide middle school learning. We're going to provide this workshop at the center at MEMSPA's, the building. We're going to do annual conference with these certain sessions. Those are check boxes. With DEI, it's not that. It is all encompassing. It's accepting of all, and it's a continued focus of awareness and inclusive. So I appreciate that, because right in these 15 minutes, it's new vocabulary even for myself when we're all learning and we're all in it together.
I just got an alert on my Apple Watch. It said breathe. That's how you know we're getting fired up, Detra. We're just getting started.
Yep, that's right. I get that too. I get that too on mine. So it happens once in a while with that little blue symbol, right? It's like, okay, time to breathe, man. So,
breathe.
no,
Okay,
yeah,
breathe.
as we end this really quickly, is there anything else that you'd like to share? Maybe some tips, tricks for people watching, any shout outs, anything like that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Yeah, I would. Be you. Be unapologetically you. You are more than enough. There is no judgment about who you are and who you are becoming. Be your best self and better than who you were yesterday. You are not defined by your past. Many of us did not have a choice in what we were born into, but we do have a choice as to where we're going.
Correct.
So challenge yourself. Be uncomfortable, but be you that understands and appreciates other people and other things. I started off by saying I love people. I love when people accept what their impact can be and that they allow themselves to grow. Awesome. And I thank you, Mike, and I thank you, Detra. I have grown more in the last 2 years than in many parts of my life. I'm going to be an older man next week, and I've been doing some stuff. Not too old. I said older. I didn't say old.
Yep. More experience.
Right, more a little seasoned. I got a little Lars on.
Yep.
And I just have a chance to reflect on the person that I was and the person that I am, but I'm so excited about the person that I'm going to be. I'm growing into my better self, y'all.
Awesome. Detra, anything?
That's wonderful. Yes, absolutely. I look in my office and I was reflecting on a plaque that one of my friends purchased for me that says, "Women belong in all places where decisions are being made." And I received that on my way to this position, but I think about that also in terms of diversity, and that we all belong to be in a place where decisions are being made. And when you have that perspective, I just think about the inclusive nature of conversations with kids, conversations with colleagues, and how when we can embrace each other and wrap our arms around each other, how much better it feels, how much more we're able to get accomplished. I am in a place where I love being me. I love talking about diversity. It precedes me when I walk in the room, so why not talk about it? We can't hide the fact that I'm female, can't hide the fact that I'm Black, and I'm unapologetic for it. And I love all of those things about me. And so when Michael is talking about be you, I love being me. And I hope that we can all walk in our purpose, walk in our God-given talents, walk in the Spirit, so that we enjoy what we're doing each and every single day. Love living, love life, and loving each other.
Awesome. I mean, that's about it, right?
Do you have a mic? Mike, do you have a mic? Because if you did, you should drop it right now.
I have one actually right here. It's a portable one, and I'm going to drop it just like that because we need to end on that. I agreed with you, Mr. Johnson, or Mr. Fields, whatever your name is. But no, hey, I thank you both for the work you're doing. I thank you for being on today, talking with everyone about some diversity, equity, inclusion, what it means, where we're going. It's going to be at the forefront. I appreciate all the leadership that you guys have done with MEMSPA and also through our great state of Michigan as well. It's moving, it's moving in the right direction, and it's through your leadership. So I appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. The pleasure is all ours.
Thank you, Mike. It's been wonderful. Thank you, Michaels. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. So
we'll bring you a piece of wood too, okay?
Absolutely. We got to remember that, Michael, for the annual conference.
We got you.
So I got a couple pieces coming up now.
I'll be waiting.
Yeah. So for everybody listening to this, or everyone watching, thank you very much for checking it out. The MEMSPA Minutes, once again, appears every 8:30 on Thursdays, but you can check them out at any time by just going to YouTube and searching for the channel MEMSPA TV. It's very simple. Subscribe to the channel and you'll get notifications when a new video pops up, and they pop up every week. All right. So thank you very much for all the hard work everyone is doing out there. Remember, we are Principals Leading Learning, and we are better together. So everyone take care, and we'll see you again next time.